All right, everybody, welcome back. You don't have to hide and not turn on your cameras because I will not be asking you to read the Tibetan today. So you don't have to hide and pretend you're not here. Okay. All right. Anyhow, so what we're going to do today, I've gotten some feedback from different people about like the possibility of, the difficulty of properly identifying the gotcha, of properly identifying like what is the self that we're denying. Um, and so that's you know, and some people were saying like, I'm not sure if I've actually reached the correct self, right? Like, am I actually going to, which self am I denying? And then there's the question of like, what if we're putting too many restrictions on it? Um, and I think it was a good thing for me to think about. Like, Pabonka is giving us a way to do it. Like he's giving us the path, how to analyze it. And I would say that that path to analyzing it is we're not going to be right on the mark right away. We're not going to be at that actual self that we're denying in the beginning. We have to keep practicing. What is the self? Who is what if there were a self to be there to deny? What is it that we're denying? Like, what is that thing that we thought was there that's not? Right. And we did a meditation last class, two classes, I can't remember. Recently, I think two classes ago, to help you come up with that self that you like, the method that Prabhupada is giving us to say, look, we are just living our lives sort of blindly, it's not the right word, but unawares. I'm going to talk about Chepa. We're not analyzing, but how do we create that part of our mind that's constantly aware of, I like to call it the offended self, right? The self that is taking offense to the world. And what I mean by that is and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but it's this self that goes, I am me, right? And something happens and we go, oh, I can't believe this happened to me. Positive or negative, like good feelings, bad feelings, right? Doesn't matter. Um, and so we created the meditation is designed to create the sheshin, the part of the mind that's watching you be you, which is kind of oxymoronic because how could the you watch you and you deny the you by watching you? And who's the you that's watching? Who is that separate you that's watching you go, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe they said this to me. I can't believe they did this to me. Right. Which we used stronger negative emotions as part of the path as because it's a lot easier to navigate in those because those are the moments where the sort of general awareness of the world collapses into, it's a collapse into me. This happened to me and I am falsely accused. I don't want this. Me, right? And so in other points of the path, we talk about like, the needing to lojang and, softening that and understanding, oh, I'm being yelled at. Like, why do I have my partner yelling at me in the kitchen? I didn't do anything, right? And you can understand that's coming from seeds. And that's a great thing to do and not stop doing. I'm not saying that. But what we're getting at is that you can use these collapsings into me, where the me becomes fully present, fully me, fully 100% me, and like less the world, something like that. Use that as the path, because that's the self we deny. Because that self is not there on its own, self standing by itself without having, um, for no reason at all. Right? Even if you came in and your partner was like loving and caring and like made you dinner and like you got the hug that you actually wanted, right? And you go, oh, so nice. I'm getting what, that me that collapses or appears and goes, oh, finally getting the hug I want. Like that's the me that it's a lot harder to capture that one, to deny it, because you're not offended. You're not like, oh, I can't believe I'm me right now getting this hug. Right? You're not like that. You're more like, finally, I'm getting the support I need. Right? I need, I want. They're finally doing things the way I want them, whatever it is. But you don't like that me doesn't go, I didn't do anything. That me goes, oh, I finally did something and I saw the result. But that's the same me that's not self-standing. And that's the one we work to deny. That feeling. Like it's a feeling, it's experience. I don't Someone asked, how do we determine these things? Like you have to experience it. Like, do I just need to have faith? No, no faith. Like experience it. The logic and the will take you into the experience. So what I'm trying to say really is that our like you can find this self that doesn't exist who appears to exist pretty much anywhere in any experience. And that's what Pabonka gives us is, let's move away from general awareness, like walking down the street and then having a moment of offense when a bird poops on you, versus just being like, you know, can you hold that self? Can you bring that awareness, keep bringing your awareness back to me? Not with the purpose of over glorifying and boosting your ego. Me, I deserve this. Yes, you do. You deserve all the things you get. Logically, I don't wish it upon everybody. But that's the self that's not there. And then you can do all the analysis. Well, why do I have this self that's offended? Why do I have this self that's getting the hug? Why am I, why me? Why do I have to see this? You know, the problem is when you have that mantra, why do you have to see this? It's so easy to be like, why do I have to see this? Or I'll call Kata and be like, I know it's coming from me, but blah, 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 blah. Right. And then I tell her all the things. And then Cotton goes, okay, I know, Tim. I know. Right. And then we can look at the seeds part of it. But Pabonka is interested in a particular seed, the seed that creates you. And if you can unravel that seed, then you can get closer to Chuchok, or you can get closer to seeing emptiness directly. Right. Like waste your time, excuse me. If you're going to waste your time on that seed. You know what I mean? So So all the examples that I gave are just examples. I'm just giving you places, opportunities to look, and there are many other places to look. And if you don't like the places I gave you, or the things don't resonate with you, use it as a map to find the things that resonate with you. Find the times when you go, me. You know when's a good time to say me? When you're sick. When you're offended, when you're not getting what you want. And I'm not saying turn off those experiences are, yes, they're coming from other seeds. But what I'm saying is turn them into a path. Turn them into go deeper. Yes, you got offended. You're offended. But use it as a flip it to go deeper and be like, thank you for showing me something. Thank you. Like what we talked about in the last class, like 7 secret flavor of emptiness. Thank you, Buddha, for showing me this through the most irritating person in the world right now. So that's that's all I want to say about that. I think it's really taking that space for yourself to look. Like it's hard to look at yourself. It's hard to look at me. Like because the layers of story and narrative are so powerful and comfortable. They're super like it's whether you like this whether you like the story or not, you're probably repeating it because you like it in some way. There's some comfort in the pattern or there's some familiarity in it. And that's our work. That's the work we have. So anyhow, so what I want to do today is I want to continue the outline of the LAMRIM. We've been deeply exploring several topics around meditation and around insight in emptiness. And once we get through the insight chapter, we're going to go back to the beginning of Pabanka's gift of liberation and start going through every single detail of the LAMRIM. And I thought it would be nice to take a break from emptiness and go into story time a little bit and go into like what are some of the highlights that we're going to go through. The kind of like maybe, and I have this feeling that maybe one of those things might resonate with you. Like, oh, that's something I want to focus on, or that's something that's important to me, that you can take these ideas, meditation and insight, and apply it to those other steps. Because that's really the main goal is once you've learned to meditate, then you apply it to all the steps in LAMRIM. And you take each of the realizations that you're supposed to have, or supposed to is kind of weird, but the realizations that come on the path. She wants to say hi. Okay, look how cute she is. She's been sick lately. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So um so how do we find, you know, each step on the path of like the whole point of the path is like how do you find yourself? How do you find the true you? So that's why I want to go through the high levels of it. And additionally, it's also my seed planting for the future of the staircase house. Like staircase house level 1 classes are like, let's just learn about all the topics. And then when you get to the advanced staircase house, I'm not talking Diamond Way, but that to be able to go deeper into each of those topics, because maybe you'll want to become an expert in death meditation or an expert in karma or an expert in the three scopes, and you want to learn more. And so we're going to teach you how to research all of those things. There might be, I don't know, we'll have certificates and degrees, things like that later. All right. So here we go. So the beginning of the LAMRIM we talked about last week, and the genre or these particular teachings came together from two different streams. They came through two rivers. They came from Arya Nagarjuna, the lineage of the profound wisdom, and it came from Arya Asanga, the lineage of the widespread activities, compassion, bodhisattva activities. And Atisha took those two threads, those two lineages, and combined them into one package, into LAMRIM. Now, of course, Arya Nagarjuna taught bodhisattva activities, and of course, Arya Sangha taught wisdom. Right, so it would be silly to say they only taught one or the other, but there was an emphasis on one or the other in some arguments, I suppose. I mean, Asanga spent a lot of time on emptiness, innovator of the mind only school, first of all. And Nagarjuna talked extensively about bodhicitta. But those two come together into a single stream in LAMRIM. So they're all combined together. And then we learn about that story, which is, it's going to be a lot easier to translate and a lot more fun because it's just story time. It's a lot more colloquial, and it's a lot, doesn't require as much brain power. All right. So then after we do that, we figure out how it came together. What's the next thing that happens? Motivational speech. Why you should study this, and then all the reasons why we have the teachings, why we do all those things, why they are personal instruction. Like, the cool thing about LAMRIM is that you're supposed to listen to it as though it's a personal instruction for you right now. Every time you hear the LAMRIM, you should be like, this applies to me. How? Right? Why am I hearing this right now? Why are you hearing the outline of the LAMRIM right now? You should be thinking this. Like, why are you in a class that you thought was going to be a translation class on emptiness today is now an outline of the LAMRIM? You see, like, and then what's the message for you? Why are your seeds opening up, onto these parts to create an outline of LAMRIM? What's the personal instruction for you? And that's how LAMRIM, well, actually, it's how all Dharma teaching should be taken, but that's one of the special qualities of LAMRIM itself. And then the whole point of taking a LAMRIM study is that you're, if you study well, the karmic result of it is that you're, how do I say this? If you study LAMRIM well, the result of that study will be that you will just stop doing bad things. You'll stop planting bad seeds automatically, spontaneously, which I think is really cool. Like, just by going to the teachings and paying attention, somebody got it. The karmic result of that is that you just stop planting bad seeds. Awesome. Like, great. You just get to sit on Zoom, and then, sometime in the future, you stop planting you stop acting in a wild way. That's great. You didn't even need your book. I didn't say don't do your book. Okay. The next step after the motivational speech is about how to listen to the teachings, like how to listen to the Dharma itself. What's the right way to listen? What's the right way to teach it? And then it says something here, which I think the part of the point of doing reviews, like for example, if you wanted to do the review of ACI 16, 17, and 18, which we're starting in November, going through all the teachings again, is that you fill in the gaps. You fill in the areas where you picked up something the first time around and you did a good job, but then you missed a piece. You missed a piece of the puzzle. You missed something important, for example. And not to take it negatively, but like your capacity increased. So now you have a way to like plug in differently, right? And this is something that I just in the outline, I realized that I'm not doing very well. So I'm like, oh, look, I missed this. And so, in the correct way of teaching, how to conclude a teaching, both as a teacher and both as a student, right? Is that we need to dedicate the good seeds that we collected during the teaching to the goal of total enlightenment. Like to take those seeds and go, we're putting them into some big result, you see. And I would say implicitly, I've been teaching that, but we haven't been doing it explicitly, right? Traditionally, in these teachings, we have opening and concluding prayers. Sashi, Puki, Juksin, Mito, Drum, right? Ram, right? And I've purposely chosen not to teach with prayers, not because I don't think they're valuable, but I also sometimes think they can be misunderstood or it seems too formal or something like that or too religious. And I want to focus on the application of the ideas. The whole point of the prayers, Sashi Puki, right, is to make an offering. You're making an offering when you start a class. Like teachers, we've been having long discussions about this in ACI in Five Houses. You know, and I had a discussion with a student about this recently as well. I teach for free. I spend hours of my life teaching. I've spent hours of my life preparing to teach. I spend tremendous amount of time with students and teaching, and I love it. Okay, I'm not complaining. Okay, right? And in this tradition, in these kinds of teachings, there's no payment for teaching. Do you guys have any idea what a person who's doing what I'm doing or any other ACI teacher could charge on the open market for this kind of time, care, dedication, support? Do you know what people charge for that kind of attention? Most of us can't afford it. Only certain people can afford that. Certain, demographics. And we at ACI, we do it for free, right? And so part of the opening prayers, Sashi Buki, is all about being like, I'm giving you some, I'm making an offering to the teacher. Not because the teacher needs it. I mean, I always can use more, but I don't need offerings, right? And I get things because I have the seeds for them, not because I'm asking for offerings, right? And I'm not asking for offerings, but what I'm asking for is, when you're going to a class, you should be making an offering. It's not for the teacher, it's for you, right? What do you do in the seven preliminaries, six, seven, whatever, however you look at it in the in your meditation. The very first thing you do after you honor the person you're meditating with is you give them something. You make a, so in this way, you're offering the whole world. You're offering a perfect world, right? And you can look in the readings and see you can see the Tibetan, you can see the translation of it, and you can do those kind of things, or you can just do it in your mind. You can do all those things, and the reason I don't do it explicitly, at least in my open teachings, is because I don't want it to look in a way that will turn people off. Right. And there's a lot of people, especially in the West, who would love to hear these ideas. But as soon as everyone puts their hands up and is like, Sashi Puki, right, and sings along, the people go, ah, and then they have a, syntax error, and then they don't come back. Oh, I'm sorry. But so like starting a teaching with making an offering is important. Some teachers in ACI do that, and there's no right or wrong way. But here in LAMRIM, it's telling us, oh, when you conclude, you should be dedicating. You should dedicate those good seeds. Gewadi, gewo. Shit, I can't remember the words. Okay, yeah. So we start with gewa, right? We're offering that goodness. We're offering it to the highest goals. So maybe that's something that we can, that I'm going to change in my own teachings, maybe to remind everybody at the end, hey, don't forget to dedicate your good karma. We did a really good deed today. But again, I want to make sure it doesn't sound culty or like weird to some people, right? And that's why I've waited till we've gotten through ACI 15 and through some of these courses to say those things, right? I can say this to all of you because you're all dedicated students, right? And I'm not worried about it. But I'm not going to go to Oracle and open up a business talk and be like, excuse me, Sashi Buki, forget about it. But I'll do it in my mind. Like that's different. Like, and that's also part of Vajrayana practice is how much it's an inner practice. Like what you look on, like on the outside can remind you, but the outside is just symbols. Anyway. All right. So next, like once you've learned the correct way of giving a teaching and receiving a teaching, the next thing is the very first root of the path. What is it? Dun, dun, dun. What's the root of the path? Sawe Lama, right? It's the root teacher. It's the spiritual teacher, your own personal guide, right? And then he opens up with what's fascinating is Pabonka then opens up that section by teaching us about the 6 preliminary practices when you have a teacher, right? And it's not exactly what you think, but it's a lot of it is about what to do in your meditation. So the first thing he says is how to serve a teacher. The root of the path is not having a teacher, it's serving a teacher, which is a completely different thing. People are obsessed with, oh my God, I need to find my teacher. Wrong. Yeah, you need to find. First of all, you create A. B, it's not finding a teacher. It's not having a teacher. It's not a possession. You serve a teacher. Total different attitude. I have this joke. Some of us have this joke, and probably it's bad karma. Should even, I'm going to say it anyway. Like when there's a lama, a high lama, and it's like the little ducklings that follow behind the High Lama, right? And they kind of walk behind the teacher and they walk really slow and like it looks, depending what you see, right? It can look in various ways to different people, right? Like, and I'm not saying those people aren't serving. That's not what I'm saying because I don't know what's in their mind. But for me, my interpretation of serving is I don't want ducklings. I want ninjas. And what I mean by that is like how are you serving other people? How are you looking out to serve other people? Like I can walk to my car myself. I'm not saying don't help. But what I'm saying is what's in your mind? Your mind is not about having something. Your mind should be, how am I serving a teacher? And so then it makes it a little bit different. Then it's not about like the one high holy being. It's about serving teachers. Who is your teacher? Who are the people that are appearing in your life as a teacher? By the way, we're going to give a class on this at the October event in Phoenix. Rebecca Vinacor and myself are going to give a class on how to find your teacher because people want their teacher, like how to have how to have that relationship, how to have that heavy relationship, guru, right? We don't talk about guru devotion very often because it's incredibly heavy karma. Like it's incredibly heavy. Like I've always wondered why Geshe Michael doesn't do certain things as a teacher or correct things that are blatantly wrong, in my humble opinion, because my humble opinion is the right one. That's a joke if you didn't get it. Um, and it's because the weight, the gravity, the guru, right? The gravity of that karmic relationship. You know, it can go sideways and the karma can shift in 5 seconds if you don't have the right attitude. And that's why we don't teach it very much. Not because it's, culty or because it's like, subservient or that like you are just, at the mercy of your teacher. It's not that at all. The heaviness of the karma for the student towards that person is can go in either direction. Heavy. It's heavy, powerful in either direction. And so you need to be very, very careful with it. And so that's why I like to think of it as service. Like I'm serving a teacher's mission, many teachers' missions. And then you start seeing teachers everywhere. Oh, Tim, I thought I needed a teacher. Chick do drill, one or many. Expand your mind. How many teachers were at my Vajrayana initiation? Kat, you weren't there. 6. 2 of them as people I can't handle in the same room. One of them drives me nuts and irritates the crap out of me all the time. I'm supposed to treat them like tantric lamas, and I can't stand 2 of them. Literally, they breathe, and I'm annoyed. Like everything that comes out of their mouth is irritating, right? That's why my teachers did it. Understand? Because if I never got annoyed, I would never have a chance to purify it. Because I don't get irritating with my primaries, the primary teachers, I mean, I get upset, but not at them. I get upset with the situations. But I have a strong enough view that I don't get mad with them. But then they put people in the way that make you irritated, right? Because I still have those seeds, of course, right? One or many, right? Serve. So I try to serve the people I hate the most. like talk about syntax error. Like low jung that shit. Like, oh, you don't like that person? Oh, make sure you buy them 3 times as many snacks. Make them offerings. I have one person that I can't even talk to, and I'm just like, hi. I said hi. I said hi without feeling irritated, right? So it's about service. It's not about the person, right? So take that seriously. And then there's a whole section on the advantage of properly serving a teacher and improperly serving a teacher. For example, if you properly serve a teacher, you'll have demons and evil people will not be able to harm you. All realizations will come to you quickly. You will always have a teacher in the future, right? Some things negative about this. Okay. To become angry with our teacher is basically saying, I am angry with all the Buddhas in the universe. To become angry with your teacher destroys so much virtue that you remain in the hell realms for infinite eons because karma doubles. Someone asked that question earlier. Why? Because if a Buddha is appearing to you as a teacher and then you get angry with that person, you're basically saying Buddhas don't exist, right? You're so then therefore you just suffer more. That's what it says. So there's a weight to seeing someone as your teacher too. So you got to be careful. Okay. It's and the problem is if you didn't know, it's not as bad as than if you did know, right? Ignorance is bliss in some capacity. Okay. Okay. There's a beautiful section on how to serve a teacher in your thought only, how to serve them in meditation. How to serve them in translation would be how to serve them from a distance. Like a lot of you are far away from your teacher, whomever that teacher is, physically. How do you serve them? How do you serve them in your thoughts? Okay. All right. So once you have learned, of course, how to then serve a teacher in person as well, how to show respect, how to be honorable, all of those things. And it's not for the teacher. Now get this. I'm going to spend more time on this than anything else. Understand that it's not for the teacher. The way you treat them is not for them. It's for you. You know, what kinds of seeds you're planting if you have a view that maybe a Buddha has taken the form of my teacher. I'm not now get this. I'm not saying I'm a Buddha, but that has nothing to do with your karma of how you see your teacher, whether it's me or somebody else. You have to think about this really deeply. Ooh, I was going to get some kind of reaction there. Um, because I could function to myself as a non-Buddha. Let me take this out of me. It feels so weird to say me. Your teacher could function as a non-Buddha from their side, and you could see them as a Buddha from your side, and it is equally correct. Because emptiness, right? You know, your seeds are your seeds, right? And if you have you know, my teacher has been always been like, I'm not enlightened. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Thank you. Right. Okay, that's fine. You know, I don't know what's going on for their side. I just know how what I'm working to see, and so in that way, it gives us something to practice. Does that mean because you see, now this is because you see your teacher as a Buddha or you're trying, does that mean that you agree with everything they do? Does that mean you might see things that are, by the way, the moment that I asked my teachers, I had a Ne Lama and I had a Lama Lama. The moment that I asked them to be my teachers, it was within a month of each other. Everything blew up in my face to the point where I had to question whether or not I was going to have a teacher and if these were the teachers. Blew up. It literally, the entire Sangha blew up. It was ridiculous. I'm like, what the? I'm like, did I make the right choice? You see? And I was like, okay, now I get to practice, right? Now I get to practice and I get to see how the people that I think are my teachers are reacting to this difficult situation. Then it was like, how do I see it? How do I see them? How do I see all of that? And the people that in this sort of dramatic moment, the people that weren't thinking about karma and emptiness were the ones that moved on. The ones that didn't stay on their path because they weren't there for the right reasons. Is this a judgment? No. Their path wasn't that path, but they weren't seeing the karma and emptiness of it. Also, though, it doesn't mean just because you think about karma and emptiness that you stick around when things aren't good either. Another conversation Kari and I have recently had. Like if something's not in alignment, then you have to do something about it. Like we always say, I've heard so many people like saying, I'm in this abusive relationship. It's like, but I'll just change the seeds. I'm like, where you can change those seeds? While you're not being abused, like get out. Like, yes, your seeds are ripening that way, but that doesn't mean you roll over either. So like you have to use discernment. And that's what serving a teacher will teach you is how to discern what's in alignment and what's not in alignment. And that's also a seed as well. So after we do all of that, um, then we start looking at how do we train our mind. Like, yeah, you serve, but what's the next step? And the first thing is about it's about leisure and fortune, we call it. Ooh, did I get that right? Yeah, yeah. Next one is about leisure and fortune. Like, what what great karmas have brought you to this point to be able to have a teacher, serve a teacher? What good things have allowed you to have this capacity, space, time, mind, heart to do that? Right? Yes, we all have our own individual things. As someone wrote me and talked about their health problems, which, by the way, I will be responding shortly. Um, I know you know who it is. I just haven't responded yet. You know, and they're a great practitioner. They're super kind. Their heart is there, and they're just going through some difficult times right now. It's still leisure and fortune, right? It doesn't mean bad things don't happen to us. but we have a space to navigate it. So that's the kind of the first thing, is understanding the great fortune it was to A, be born as a human, but B, be able to practice, to have the space for it, to have a supportive life for it. There's 47 people here, guys. Like, that's leisure and fortune. How many people are on the planet? Like, yes, of course, this isn't the message for everybody in this way. Like, there's different ways to message things, and I'm not the person that everyone wants to hear from. But, but there's only 47 people here who have the time, the capacity. You know, your world is taken care of in the way that then you can spend the time on these higher things to then help other people, you see. And if you forget that, when you get mired in your self-suffering, which we all do, get stuck in the brambles of our pain, then it's we have to remember that even be able to have the thought about how to change it through planting different seeds is a tremendous fortune. Most people don't even have that luck. I wouldn't call it luck, don't even have that seed. And that seed can go away. Geshe-la's been talking about he's rushing to get so many translations done before his kidney transplant, because it's possible it won't go well. It's possible that his mind won't be clear afterwards. And he's accepting it, right? He could lose that in this body and mind, right? We can lose it at any time. Kitty. That cat looks like a panther, Maria. Love it. So, you know, understanding what those things are. Just in case Chinese interpreter is sharing, it seems like there's something wrong with your microphone or something. Let's see. So it's okay now, Sharon. Thank you. Um, so it's an important thing to keep coming back to. Oh my God, I'm such a hypocrite. I'm not the practitioner that I thought I was. You're not an imposter. You have the leisure and fortune. Part of the path is feeling that, of course. All right, next. Next thing we already talked about. Guess what? It's called death. The realization of your own death, your realization of your own impermanence. Like not being able to recall your death, the disadvantages of it, the advantages of doing such a thing. Understanding the certainty of it. All right. Living your life as though you're going to die changes the priority of your actions. That's right, Trinity. I know. She's agreeing. She always agrees at the right important times. And if you don't recall death, the world will recall it for you. So it's an important realization to have and to live from. And it takes a lot of courage to do it. Next, after you have a realization of death is certain, and all the things that it changes in you, the next thing we go to is future lives. You know, the nature of future lives. What's that going to look like? What are the different experiences? What's in the realm of existence? Like, what are the different types of beings? We did that in ACI 8. Who are all those? Who could we become? And who would you like to become versus not become? Right. And so then it's contemplating, what are you doing now to protect yourself in your future lives? What are you doing to protect yourself in 5 years and 10 years and 30 years? Like 30, future you will be happy based on the things that you do today, or unhappy. So do, if you're going to do it for anyone, do it for future you. Like, be a little be a little selfish. You're not going to hear me say that very often. Do it for future you, happier you, healthier you, which of course then requires you to plant seeds, which means requires you to help other people. So it's not really selfish, just a little bit. Your motivation is just for yourself, but I don't think it's a bad one. Like, because if you can purify the crap that's happening today, maybe in 10 years you'll be able to serve 500 people or 5,000 people or 5 million people, right? We got 48 here. 10 years, I want 500 in these classes. 20 years, I want 5,000 people, you see? Like, not because it's a number, but because it's helping more people. But that's called capacity, right? Being able to hold the space for 5,000 people is different than holding it for 48, 47. Well, 48, including myself. Do it for you. Do it for future you. Make future you happy. Then it gets us into vows, gets us into how to make a better future you. Take refuge. 10 virtues, 10 non-virtues, right? Of course, like, in order to protect future you, then you have to plant seeds. Oh, taking refuge and taking layperson's vows. Oh, is that enough? Nope. Next step is karma and emptiness. Excuse me. The next step is karma itself, understanding causes and its consequences. When you really think about how all of this is laced together, each realization ties into the other, right? You think about death. Oh shit, I'm going to die. Oh no, future lives. I want a better future life. Like, oh no, I have to do it for my future self. What do I need to do? Okay, well, I need to take refuge and do all the things. Well, how's that going to work? Like, are they any different than anything else? Well, actually, karma and consequences will teach you how to actually engage that. So someone asked a question earlier about how do we do this through logic without faith. This is the path. All right. Step by step, you build, each of these things are built upon each other and very logically built upon each other. Okay. So then we learn all about karma. Like, what are the rules? What are the laws? What happens if we do certain things? What happens when we don't do certain things? What happens when we how does karma ripen? Something's not right here. Hold on. 333 specific. Oh, I see. Okay. You know, and I missed something a little bit earlier, but it's I basically missed saying that this is the path of people of lower capacity, which is actually higher capacity. It's a high capacity compared to most people. But okay, so we've gotten through all of those pieces, karma and its consequences, right? Now you're understanding, like, through your practice, you're like, yeah, this is when you do 4 steps. This is when you take on karmic projects. This is when you prove to yourself that by doing certain things in a different way, you can get different results. And then we start moving into a whole nother place of people of medium capacity. Right now we're not just trying to, you know, get a better life for ourselves. Now we're starting to look into, well, how do we get liberation? Okay. You know, what is samsara in general? What is this larger pattern? How do we get out of this? How do we stop our mental afflictions? You know, what types of paths do we need to practice to get out of this? You know, and then, which is a whole long section. I'm going through quickly because we have 4 minutes, so I'm just going to give you it all very fast. Then we move into the practitioners of greater capacity, highest capacity, which is entering the Mahayana path, specifically about being a bodhisattva. How being a bodhisattva expedites the process, how it moves it along faster, because you're doing it not only for yourself to get out, but you're doing it for others. You know, then we get into questions of like the 7-step process, you know, the seven, what did we call it? The 7 steps of cause and effect. You know, recognizing everyone was our mother. Then we move into Tonglen. You know, how do we develop bodhicitta? What do we do as a bodhisattva? The 6 perfections. You know, how to train yourself in all of those perfections. And then specifically what we've been doing over the last couple, like year and a half, 2 years, is we've been training ourselves in the last 2 perfections, the perfection of meditation, concentration, and the perfection of wisdom, insight. So we're actually doing bodhisattva activities first to then go back, probably on purpose, right? Get ourselves as start as a bodhisattva, right? And then go through the path. Because there's this thing that you can, at least in the lower presentations of it, you can go through and have deep realizations without bodhicitta. And then, oh shit, you got to do it again. Like you would have to start again if you had certain realizations without bodhicitta. So let's just start with all the tools first, you know, and not waste our time. You know, there's and then finally, once we establish, you know, we're in the sense we're establishing the emptiness of the self, right? Then we establish the emptiness of existing things. Then we get to a place where we're then ready to train ourselves in the Diamond Way. And then there's a whole LAMRIM in Diamond Way as well, which is secret, which I can't tell you about right now. But there's stages to that path as well. And it's and having this foundation, all of those things, right? Leisure and fortune, death, karma and its consequences, you know, preparing yourself to reach liberation, becoming a bodhisattva, right? All of those things function to fuel your Diamond Way practice. Without them, you're missing a piece. And that's why it's called the path that is shared. It's not that you move into Vajrayogini and then you forget all of those things. You use all of those things in a more profound way. But you have to learn them first. You have to integrate them first. They have to be automatic, right? If you don't understand that death is certain, how are you going to use death as a path to enlightenment? Like, how do you transform normal death into extraordinary death if you don't even understand that death is happening? right? And if you didn't believe that death was happening, why would you do that practice? Right? You know, then it just becomes words and not experience, you see. So that's what I wanted to outline as we finish this term, so you know where we're going and why we're doing it. Like, we're doing all this not as, and by the way, LAMRIM is a lifelong practice. Just because you get through it once doesn't mean you stop. Like, you keep cycling through to understand those depths of it. Because maybe LAMRIM is Diamond Way, and it's not as separate as people think it is. So thank you all for joining. I'm, you motivate me to study more, and you motivate me to help more as best as I can, you know. And so I have my book out because I want to do a little I'm going to read something. We're going to open it up just randomly. I'm going to read you whatever page it is. And this is going to be our secret message as we move on from today's term. And then when we start again in November, we'll go back to translating. So don't worry, you can turn off your cameras, next time. So I won't call on you. Um, so then we can keep going through all of this. So let's see what opens up. Hmm. Perfect. Ready? All right. And by this power, may I perfect the practice of turning myself into that enlightened being. This wonderful method of taking the natural three, death, the in between, and rebirth, and transforming them into a path to reach the three holy bodies, the highest way to make my mind ripe for realizations of the path and the goal. Thank you. We couldn't have planned that any better. So, taking our realization of death and transforming it into the three holy bodies. And that's how you become an enlightened being. Amen. let's let's dedicate the good karma of all of the things we've been doing. See, I'm following my own words. I'm following Pabonka's words, rather. Let's take that good karma and dedicate it to the highest goals. And I would say, I like to not just say, oh, for my total enlightenment. I want to be very specific. I want to see the end of certain kinds of suffering. I want certain things to just stop for people. So let's go ahead and think about that. Close your eyes and think about that for a second. What do you want? How do you want to see those seeds ripen in the future? Kat, would you like to lead us in a Gewadi?
Gewadi kewo kun sonam yeshe tzotzochin sonam yeshe lejon we dampa kuni toparshu.
Mm. And by this goodness of what I have just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Kating. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, tech. Thank you, everyone who makes this possible. I know you all work very, very hard, and don't forget why you're doing it. You know, may we find, you know, may we find our own inner peace, and may we find peace in the world. All right. I'll see you all soon. Hopefully we'll see all of you in October in a week and a half with our event. We're going to be doing a tremendous amount of work, both in LAMRIM, which now you know what's happening, which is one of the reasons why I taught it right now. And then we're also going to be spending time in 5 houses development, specifically individual house branding, individual house audiences, who are the people that we're trying to reach. And we're going to start curriculum development. So it's moving, it's on its way. So hope to see all of you either in person or in the Zoom landia. Again, if you would like to join that program, it does have a cost associated with it, except if you can't afford it, you could always ask for a scholarship. And our question to you will be, how much can you afford? And then you tell us honestly, and then we say, okay, great. Scholarship granted. This is our gift. Where do we get that money? Magic. We give it all away. And if you can't afford anything, you still should come and just say, I cannot afford anything. And we'll say, okay, you can come. We just ask for money because it costs us lots of money to do these things. And if you have the resources and you feel called to, please do support it, because there's lots and lots of things that go into making these programs possible. But it's open to everybody, regardless of money, regardless of lifestyle, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of anything. It's open to every human being. And don't forget that part either. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, day, experience, life. If I never see you again. And yeah, say goodbye to each other, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much for
teacher.
teaching. Thank you for studying. Thank you for sharing time together in this way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Have a beautiful
谢
day.
谢老师。
Goodbye.
Gracias por estudiar, por estar.